You know that feeling when you open your grocery receipt and your left eye starts twitching? Or when your landlord sends you a rent increase notification and you just laugh? Not because it's funny, but because crying takes energy you can't afford to burn. Calories cost money now. Yeah, that feeling. Well, today we're leaning all the way into that because my girl Roxy posted something on Facebook that had me screaming into my coffee this morning. It's a letter, a thank you letter to the dear Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney, author unknown, which honestly is probably for their own safety at this point. And I'm going to read it to you. The whole thing, start to finish, no interruptions, because this letter deserves the full dramatic reading throughout. And then we're going to talk about it because Mama Kay has thoughts. So buckle up, Buttercup. This is Prepped and Petty, the podcast where we prepare for the worst while looking absolutely fabulous doing it. And I'm your host, Mama Kay, coming to you live from my 1 acre coastal farmstead in Mexico, where I'm currently arguing with a duck named Lulu and pretending my solar system actually works. So look, before we dive in, this letter is about Canada. It's addressed to Mark Carney, who is the current Prime Minister for those of you who haven't been keeping score on the revolving door of Canadian leadership. But here's the thing. I need you to really hear me on this because this is not just a Canada problem. If you're in the US or if you're in the UK or if you're literally anywhere on planet Earth where governments promise things and then deliver the exact opposite, this letter's for you. I mean, the names change, the flags change, the audacity, well, that's universal. Okay, so I'm going to read this letter straight through. No stops. I want you to just sit in it. Let every line hit you. And then we're going to break it all the way down, prepped in petty style. Ready? Deep breath. Here we go. Dear Mark Carney, I just wanted to extend a heartfelt thank you for completely solving the housing crisis. I mean, it's incredible. Studio apartments are now only $3,000 a month. Bedrooms in someone's basement are a steal at $1,850, and a modest one bedroom is a jaw-dropping $3,700. Truly affordable living. I especially appreciate how owning a home now only requires an $80,000 down payment and a small, manageable $4,900 a month mortgage. I mean, home ownership has never been more within reach. Also, thank you for fixing the cost of living. I mean, groceries are unbelievably cheap right now. Eggs at $9.49, butter at $8.99, and ground beef casually hovering around $14 a pound. I mean, honestly, I'm saving so much money, I don't even know what to do with myself. I went in for milk and bread and only spent $97, which is basically nothing these days, right? What a time to be alive. The tax relief has been phenomenal, too. I mean, keeping almost half of my paycheck is just incredible. I absolutely love watching 40 to 50% disappear before I can even see it. It really builds character. Nothing says financial freedom like calculating whether you can afford rent or food in the same month. Taxes have never truly felt lower. And the safety improvements? Wow. Streets have never been calmer. You can now confidently walk past open-air drug use, randomly screaming matches, and bike chop shops, knowing everything is totally under control. The fentanyl crisis? Basically solved. The homelessness crisis? Completely handled. There are only rows and rows of tents, which is obviously just modern minimalist housing. And the crime situation has also improved dramatically. Nothing reassures citizens more than seeing repeat offenders released faster than a drive-through order. It really keeps things exciting. Who doesn't love a little unpredictability in their commute? I mean, it keeps the adrenaline pumping. And finally, thank you for making life in general so affordable. With gas hovering around $1.80 to $2.10 a liter, insurance climbing, and utilities up 30 to 40%, and somehow everyone's still expected to smile and say things are improving, the financial gymnastics required just to exist are truly inspiring. From the bottom of all Canadians' hearts, thank you for this stunning 180. Housing has never been more affordable, groceries have never been cheaper, and taxes have never been lower, and the streets never been safer. Everything is perfect. Absolutely flawless, no notes. Warmest regards, a financially thriving Canadian. P.S. If you could just fix interest rates, rent, groceries, crime, healthcare wait times, and wages, but don't rush. You've already done so much more. Okay. So where do I even start? First of all, whoever wrote that, I need your name, not to snitch, but to thank you, because that was the most accurate, most beautifully petty summary of what is happening to regular people that I have ever read in my life. And that letter belongs in a museum, like the museum of things the government doesn't want you to say out loud. And second of all, before anyone comes at me with comments saying, oh, but Mama Kay, you don't even live in Canada more. Baby, I have roots there. I have friends, family, I have people I love who are living this letter every single day. And more importantly, this letter could have been written by someone in the US and just swap the name at the top, swap the currency. The math is the same. The pain is the same. The absolute circus of quote unquote, everything is fine, while nothing is fine, that is the same. So let's talk about it. Let's start with housing. $3,000 for a studio apartment. Let me paint you a picture of what a studio apartment is for those that don't understand. It's a room, one room. Your bed is your couch, is your dining room, is your office, is your crying corner. So for $3,000 a month, you should at least get a separate crying corner. That should be in the lease. Unit includes one window, one outlet that works sometimes, and a designated emotional breakdown nook. Basement bedroom, not a basement suite, a basement bedroom for $1,850. Dude, that's not even a bedroom. That's a Harry Potter situation with better marketing. Like cozy, lower level suite with character. The character is mold, Karen. And then the down payment, $1,000 as a down payment. That's not a down payment. That's a whole entire house in some places. You know, what 180 grand gets you in certain parts of Mexico is an actual house on actual land with actual trees. I'm just saying the math isn't mathing up there. And at some point, you got to stop playing a rigged game and go find a different table. All right, let's talk about groceries. So $9.49 for eggs. Eggs from a chicken. An animal that eats bugs and scraps and walks around like she owns the place, which honestly, she does. But that's besides the point. I have chickens right here on my little farmstead. And you know what my chicken overhead is? Chicken scraps and a little feed and attitude. And that's it. My girls produce breakfast every single morning for basically nothing. That's a better return on investment than my last 3 businesses ideas combined. And I don't have to put on pants to go get them. Try doing that at your $9 grocery store. $97 for milk and bread. Milk and bread, the 2 most basic items since the invention of grocery stores. I walked to my neighbor's farm yesterday morning and got 4 liters of fresh, straight from the teat, warm milk, raw milk the guy wouldn't even let me pay him. I had to stuff money in his pockets just because he's that sweet. But you get the point, all right? Now, at $97, that's not a grocery run. That's a donation. You're not a customer at that point. You're a patron of the arts, the art of getting robbed in broad daylight under fluorescent lighting. So butter at $9, ground beef at $14 a pound, not even a kilo, a pound. And at that price, you're not making tacos, you're financing them. You need a payment plan for ground beef. That's not a grocery list, that's a freaking loan application. So 40 to 50% of your paycheck gone before you see it. And the letter says it, quote unquote, builds character. You know what that actually builds character? Growing your own food, learning to can, figuring out how to fix things instead of buying a new thing, building a life where you don't need the system to function perfectly in order to eat dinner. That builds character. Watching half your money disappear into a government that can't fix the potholes or keep the grocery stores affordable, that doesn't build character. That builds resentment and a Tums addiction. So, safety and crime, buckle up, because I'm not going to get deep into crime policy because honestly, I don't have enough wine for that conversation. But the line about repeat offenders being released faster than drive-through order, that's the most accurate thing I've heard all year. I need that on a t-shirt. I need that on a bumper sticker. I need that on the front page of every bloody newspaper that still exists. And, quote, modern minimalist society housing for tent cities. My blood pressure has an appointment with normalcy later, and I'd like to keep it. I'm going to move on. But just know, I've heard that line. I've felt that line. And if you're living somewhere where you don't feel safe walking down the street, that is not okay. And nobody in a fancy office building is coming to fix that for you. Which brings me to my actual point, the financial gymnastics of existing. So the last part of the letter, gas at $2 a liter, insurance climbing, utilities up 30 to 40%, and everybody's just supposed to smile and say things are improving. The financial gymnastics required just to exist, that line right there is why this podcast exists. Because we're not aiming for the gold medal anymore. We're not trying to thrive. We're just trying to get ahead. People are doing backflips just to stay in place, just to exist. And at some point, you got to stop doing the gymnastics and build yourself a floor to stand on. And that, my beautiful, sarcastic, slightly unhinged community, is where prepping comes in. So the prepper pivots. Okay, so we laughed, we cringed, we probably all screenshot that letter and sent it to the last 4 people. Good, spread the word. But here's where I get real with you. Because petty is fun, but prepped is what keeps you alive. In every single line in that letter, every sarcastic, beautifully bitter word, that's a reason to prep, every single one of them. Housing is unaffordable. That's a reason to start thinking about alternative living. Tiny homes, lands in places you haven't considered, skills that make you less dependent on paying someone else for a living. Can you build something? Fix something? Do you know how to make a space livable without throwing money at it? Because those skills are worth more than a $3,000 lease on a room with no crying corner. Groceries are insane. Okay, so that is your sign to start growing something. Anything. I don't care if it's herbs on a windowsill or tomatoes in a bucket on your balcony. Start. Because the grocery store is not your friend. The grocery store is a business. And right now, that business has decided your milk and bread is worth $97. You're just going to accept that? Or are you going to plant a seed and tell the system where to kiss your entire garden? And if you can get chickens, get chickens. I'm telling you, my girls cost me almost nothing and they give me breakfast every morning. $9.50 for eggs, that's adorable. My chickens work for free. So taxes are eating your paycheck alive. That's why I talk about building something that's yours. Digital products, side incomes, something that doesn't get a 40% haircut before it hits your bank account. Something that works while you sleep. Something that doesn't care who's prime minister or president or whatever title the current disappointment holds. Streets don't feel safe. You need community. You need neighbors you actually trust and know. You need spiritual awareness. You need a plan for when things get weird, and not in some dramatic apocalypse movie way, but in the power's out for 3 days and nobody told you way. In there's a boil water advisory and the stores are empty way. In a real boring, totally possible Tuesday kind of way, because that's what prepping actually is. It's not bunkers. It's not tinfoil hats. It's not zombies. It's Tuesday. Prepping is for Tuesday. And this letter is what happens when enough Tuesdays go wrong and nobody in charge does a single thing about it. So you do something about it. That's not doom and gloom. That's not fear. That's power. That's looking at $9 eggs and saying, no, thank you. I'll raise my own. That's looking at a system that's failing and saying, I'm building my own floor to stand on. That is prepped and petty. All right, homework time. So don't groan. This is the fun kind. The kind where you actually do something instead of doom scrolling until your thumbs go numb. 3 things this week. That's it. Petty little baby steps towards not being completely dependent on a system that clearly peaked in 2005. Number 1, take inventory. What do you actually have in your fridge right now? How many days could you feed yourself and your family if you couldn't go to a store? 2 days? 50 because all you have is hot sauce, 3 condiment packs from a drive-through, and regret? No judgment. That's just your starting point. Number 2, start one thing. One thing. I know I've talked about this before in other episodes, but seriously, a small herb garden or herb garden or whatever. $5 bag of rice tucked in the pantry, a jar of peanut butter because that's for emergencies, or grab one free 72-hour survival kit. It's in my links, and it'll walk you through the absolute basics without overwhelming you. Because I know that's one thing. Prepping overwhelm is real, and I'm not here to add to your stress. I'm here to reduce it, one petty little step at a time. Number 3, share this episode. Not just for me. Okay, a little for me. Mama needs to eat, and eggs aren't $9.50 down here, but they aren't free either. But because somebody in your life needs to hear this. Somebody you know is reading that letter and laughing, but not actually doing anything. Be that friend who says, hey, let's actually fix this. And if you're ready to go deeper, the blackout binder is in the link in my bio, $17. That's about the price of a pound of ground beef in Canada right now. And it'll do a lot more with your future than a single taco night. It's your complete guide to be ready when, not if, when things get weird. And if you want the whole enchilada, pun fully intended, the Survival Starter Vault is at $27 and it's everything. The binder, the checklist, the plans, all of it. Link in the bio, you know the drill. So listen, I moved to Mexico. I'm still starting a farmstead on 1-acre land with trucked in water and a solar system that has a personality. I argue with my ducks. I have chickens who think they're management. And I built this whole thing, this podcast, this brand, this slightly chaotic little life from my little kitchen table. Because I believe in my absolute bones that regular people can take their power back, not by being scared, not by hoarding, not by waiting for some politician to fix what they broke, but by being prepared, by being smart, by being petty enough to look at a broken system and say, you know what? I'm not waiting for you. I'm handling this myself. That's the whole mission. Prep smart, stay petty, and never, ever pay $9.50 for eggs if you can help it. I'm Mama Kay. I love you. Now go do something about it.